will never forget my close encounter. It happened in late October 1966. I was 10 years old. My older brother Rick was old enough to drive. He had his first car, a 1951 Plymouth. He loved that car. Took really good care of it, and he liked taking people for rides in it. And this one late October night, he said, "You want to go for a ride?" I said, "Sure." So he got his best friend, Steve, and I brought my best friend, Craig, and we went for a ride out in the dark. It was nearly Halloween. So those guys thought it would be really fun to try and scare us. So they started telling us all these scary stories. Well, Craig and I were just like, bumping elbows and laughing, It wasn't working very well. They took us out to a place out west of town here. And we were going down some windy dirt roads out in an area where the trees were scraggly pines. And they were growing up out of scab rock. And it was dark. The only lights were from his car. And Rick says, they say that aliens have actually landed out here. And Craig and I we rolled our eyes, and Steve says, "No, it's true." And we're going around this bend on this dirt road, and all of a sudden, in front of us, out the front window, appeared a giant orange ball, glowing in the night, about 300 yards away from us. Rick slammed on his brakes. We all lurched forward because none of us were wearing seatbelts. It's 1966. And in 1951, Plymouth wasn't even equipped with seatbelts. And so we all look up out through that front window and we see that big orange ball. Steve says, "It looks like a spaceship." And indeed, it did look just like a spaceship. And I must have had a look on my face like, whenever I was watching Twilight Zone episodes. At 10 years old, I wasn't supposed to be watching that show, but I must have been going all the time. And that's how I was when I saw the big orange ball glowing in the night. Finally, Rick says, "Let's get closer." Well, I didn't want to get closer. But I was stuck in the back seat of a two-door. I didn't have any choice. He took his foot off the brake and we rolled closer, going down this gravel road, the four of us, closer and closer to the big orange ball, until we couldn't get any closer because we came to a crossroad and there was a chain link fence across that. We couldn't get past the chain link fence. We were still about 100 yards away from the big orange ball. We all got out. And we got close up, as close as we could get. We put our fingers in the chain link fence and pulled our noses up to get a really good look at the big orange ball. It was about 3 stories tall. And it had this low, ominous hum emanating from it. And it was translucent as well, because we could see inside of it a dark object, something sinister, rotating around inside of the big orange ball. What is it? Nobody knew. And then we started hearing dogs barking. And then they were getting closer. Rick said, "Let's get out of here." I was already in the back seat. Everybody else climbed in, and we peeled out of there, gravel flying out from behind the car. And I looked over my shoulder till I couldn't see the big orange ball anymore. The next day, I told my dad about it. And he goes, "Oh, that." He says, "That's a military installation. It's an early warning system for Fairchild for incoming missiles from the Soviets." And, this is the Cold War time. 1966 was only a few years after the Cuban Missile Crisis. And it was a kind of a scary time. My dad said, "Rick knows all about that. He took you out there just to scare you." Well, it worked. It did scare me. Only now, I wasn't scared of aliens anymore. Now I was scared of Soviet missiles. I told my friends all about the big orange ball, and so did my friend Craig, but most of our friends didn't really believe us that there was a big orange ball out in the woods west of town. Right, yeah. So years later, I was old enough to drive. I had a 1970 Maverick. And I drove out there because I wanted to see it for myself, only I went during the daytime. So I got out there and I found it. But there was no big orange ball, it was a big white ball during the daytime. But it still was an odd sight out there. So I was really curious about it. So I took my car down the road alongside the chain link fence. And I got up to this place where there was a gate, and there was inside there a booth with a military person in uniform and a rifle. And I got up the nerve to get out of my car and go ask him, "What is that?" And he said, "None of your business, keep moving on." So I did, because he had a rifle. So I peeled out of there. I didn't go out there again for a long time. Thought about it lots of times, but didn't go out there. And then last summer, I was going by there with the car that I have now, a 2010 Honda CR-V. And I got out there, and I wasn't really looking for it. I was doing something completely different, and I'm going along, and hey, this is that old military installation. It's still here, but there's no ball anymore. I could tell it was the same place, but no ball. So I thought, I have this blog that I write where I tell stories from my childhood. I said, this would be a good story to tell. And so I'm going to take some pictures of the place. So I got out of my car, and I got my phone out. I snapped a few pictures of the military installation. Could post it on my blog. And then I realized that I wasn't the only person taking pictures. There was someone else, only they were on the inside of the fence. And they were taking pictures of me and my car and my license plate. So I hopped in my CR-V and I peeled out of there for the third time. And I kept an eye out in my rearview mirror, thinking somebody's going to be following me. I got all the way home and never saw anyone, but still, my heart was beating a little fast, and I was thinking, well, I hope there's not a couple men in black are going to show up to my door and the sunglasses, and they're going to erase my memory, right? But that never happened. Or did it?